I am here with Ward Connerly, an American political and anti-affirmative action activist, businessman, and former University of California regent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ward. How does it feel in June? A historic decision, the U.S. Supreme Court effectively ended race-conscious admission programs at colleges and universities across the country, something that you had been saying since the early 90s.
Yeah, well, it feels okay. I never had any doubt that the court decision would come down because if you're a student of the Constitution and you read it, and if you look at the history of our country, Ryan, there's no question that if you start discriminating against people on the basis of their color or their ancestry, you're breaking the law. You're going against everything that we profess to believe in as a country, and so I never had any doubt. But it is gratifying to know that the highest court of the land agrees with my position, because it got awfully lonely there at times when I was arguing in favor of equality for every person. So it feels good.
Definitely. And during that period, like when you brought up this argument in the 90s, a lot of people were saying that you were a race traitor, but when you look deeper into your argument that you're advocating for equality for everyone, that no one should be preferred because Asians were being discriminated against with the way that affirmative action was.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it was happening with the imprimatur of the highest court in the land behind it. Because in 2003, when we challenged this, the court concluded that the pursuit of diversity was a compelling state interest. And that decision made no sense. And in the fullness of time, the court has corrected itself. It stayed away from its own 2003 decision because I think many members of the court realized that was a mistake. It was embarrassing for the court to say that. But we are now at a point where we have to make this work because court decisions are not self-executing. The people have to implement them, and there are many people who don't want to implement the policy of equal treatment for every person. They want the government and they want institutions to have the power to distribute equity and entitlement. And in my lifetime, I've been hopeful and that we would reach a day where we would have to make equality the mainstream of American life. And I just resent, as a brown-skinned man, I resent the implication that we are incapable of mastering the tools in our heads to be equal.
Most definitely. You're someone who actually was born in the Jim Crow South era. You know,
yeah.
I think it's ridiculous. I don't know who is the arbiter for blackness, but let's just call him me today. And I definitely accept you, Ward. There still is some harmful effects though, for the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision. A lot of people would say that it harms science, education, and health. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that there are still some there's still some work to be done, but we can do it. And there's no other people in America who've had to climb up a hill as much as people who look like me. And we did it. And we always said we shall overcome. And we did indeed overcome.
And you definitely have here an example of someone who I would say has lived the American dream. You started off your career as a civil servant. You've worked extensively with former Governor Pete Wilson, and it was him that encouraged you not to settle for being a public servant, but pursue a career in the private sector. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, coming out of the Jim Crow era, I will never forget the feeling of uncertainty that I had, because there were so many dynamics that were at play. There were government agencies and employers who didn't want to hire colored people or Negroes or whatever we were called at the time, because they weren't sure, employers weren't sure whether the workforce would accept us. And that uncertainty about whether we would be accepted or whether we would be the central characters in a never-ending play about race would impair our entry into the workforce. And so civil service was deemed a place that was not hostile territory. You went into civil service because you knew that they were a, quote, equal opportunity employer. It was so gratifying to see those words. We are an equal opportunity employer. And Pete Wilson, who became a dear friend, felt that I was taking the easy way out, that I was just gravitating toward public service rather than relying on my own skills and the private marketplace in which I could excel. And he said, "Why do you want to take the easy way out? You're not the kind of guy who believes in that easy way out. So why are you doing it?" And I didn't have a ready response at the time, but as I thought about it, Ryan, I really agreed with him, and did in fact pursue the private sector. I formed my own business that was an association management business, and it became successful and celebrated its 50th anniversary this year, March 1 of this year. And my son is running it and doing a better job than I did.
That's amazing, Ward. Um, you know, I don't know if you know this. Tupac Shakur, he has this famous song "To Live and Die in L.A." And in the song, he kind of calls out Governor Pete Wilson for saying he wanted to see both minority groups destitute. What are your thoughts on that claim? That
Tell me
he,
that again.
he
I'm
wanted
unfamiliar with
Governor
that.
Pete Wilson wanted to see blacks and Latinos destitute. That's his claim in the song, like "To Live and Die in L.A." It was, a lot of times, like Governor Pete Wilson, like I wanted to see if you had any thoughts about it, like as far as like how
That's
Governor.
nonsense. That's nonsense. Pete has been accused of many things. I'd never heard that one, but I know that he doesn't want to see minorities destitute. That's not his philosophy. It's not something that he's ever said, to my knowledge. And I probably know as much about Pete as
Right.
any guy around. I mean, he's really a guy that believes in equality. He did not inspire me to do what I did when I went on the Board of Regents, I disagreed with him on some things, and I was never shy about articulating my disagreements. But he's never, ever said anything like that. And people can put words to music. I guess you could call it music, and accuse people of a lot of things. But Pete's never done that. He's never said that.
Definitely. Ward, you have this new book, Ward's Words on His Inspiring Road to Equality. Where can people find the book?
Well, when I finish writing it, they'll be able to find it, I hope, in Amazon. They can go to my own foundation, the American Civil Rights Institute, acri.org, and it will be available there. And it will be in bookstores. And I'm self-publishing, but I'm using a publishing house to distribute and to be involved there. But I'm trying to do this project on a self-published basis because the publishers, Simon and Schuster and all the others, they really take you to the cleaners. Right. This is my third book, and Ryan, they don't leave you much on the table when you hook up with them. And I've got a pretty good following,
right,
of people, and so I don't need them as much as I once did.
Definitely. Ward, I can't wait to read your new book. I appreciate you for all you've done for the fight for equality. And anytime, I'd love to have you back and stuff and everything. And I appreciate you supporting me over the years.
Well, my friend, you can certainly rely on that because it is so important for us now that the Supreme Court has said that discrimination on the basis of color is wrong and against the law, the Constitution, that we have an equality paradigm. We now have to prove that it is, because as I've said, this is not a self-executing decision. And I would think that every American who happens to be of my skin color and who's lived through the Jim Crow era realizes the harm of people presuming that my skin color impairs me from being able to compete alongside whites or Asians or anybody else for any role in American life. We are the only, quote, minority that has advanced to become the leader of this country. And you might say, well, there was a little bit of race consciousness involved in the decisions of people when they voted. I don't know. But who else? Who else? Other than a brown-skinned guy, a multiracial guy, has become the president of the United States. I may not agree with Barack Obama on policies, but he was the president. Yeah. And we have to give him the presumptions that we give anybody else. So I think that we can do it as a people. And for my remaining years, I am up for the fight. And I want people to not equate the color of my skin with my capability, with what my mind will allow me to do. And that is, we black people have been enslaved in a prison of our own making for the most part for the last 40 or 50 years. We allow this garbage about our being incapable of competing for admission to college or certain roles in life to be put out there and made real because we don't challenge it. There's no reason why we can't be admitted to Harvard or any other institutions on the strength of our own merit. And put us in the arena and we'll compete and we'll win our share of them. And that's what I've been saying, Ryan, for decades. And I just hope that people who look like me will embrace that philosophy, so that my kids and grandkids don't have to grow up in a society where there are these presumptions about what people with brown skin, what their minds are capable of doing. There is nothing that impairs people like me from being able to compete and win in any venue that there is out there. And I think that that more people, as they begin to think about it, will realize that, geez, Connerly was right.
Most definitely. Ward, I really appreciate you for taking the time. Have a great day.
Okay, my friend, you too. Thanks.